Well, Mockingbird's all mocked up and looking really nice. Everything is test fitted, dialed in, gaps looking fantastic, especially for a reproduction mix match brand between OER and AMD panels. Actually come together really nice and super happy with the fitment. Now that checkbox is done. What's the next step? Take it all back apart. I seem to be good for that. I like putting things all together, test fit it, look for any kind of problems, complications, issues, anything needs to be resolved. Take it apart, repair those issues, and then permanently assemble it. You'll see I do that throughout the whole build. You get all the sheet metal all test fitted, taking it back off, gonna put it back on. I get all the body working all done. I get all the body panels on this car, primed, sanded, everything looking perfectly straight and great. Pull it all back apart, paint it, put it back together. It seems to be my process. I don't like any surprises. As you get all that stuff done, all your welding, all your painting done, and you kind of find out something doesn't fit, the gaps are awful, or something's just not going to work, and you got to repaint or redo things. Well, to me, that burns up more time, and it kind of ruins the momentum, I think, sometimes too. So moving forward, making positive growth or building towards your goal, making little check boxes, I'd rather do that than take 2 steps backwards. So my plan sometimes may be a little wonky, but seems to work good for me. Final product comes out pretty good. And I don't have a whole lot of like, oh, got to redo that and completely start over. So do what you want with that, but we're going to get into, I got to pull this thing all back apart, all the sheet metal off the back car, not the trunk floor, but the outer skin, let's call it. We're going to pull all that off. We're going to start by welding the fender welds in and the trunk drop-offs and get that position. That's what we're going to get into here today, welding those parts in, what needs to be welded where, and how to get it tied in nice and good. So don't want to miss that. Stay tuned. Quick little tip for you, blow this thing all back apart like we've established. I have screwed this car together with minimal pieces of hardware for test fitting. Well, that's great, but sometimes I took a screw, put it in place, didn't like it, like the holes don't line up. Well, what we're going to do is I want to make this thing back the way that it was, so the screws that are good, I want to make sure I replace those with the right ones. So I'll mark those saying, yep, that's good. The holes I'm not going to use, I'm not going to mark because I got a couple back here too. As you can tell, that hole lines up great. This one doesn't line up to anything anymore after our final fitment. So just make note before you blow this thing apart and put it back on your garage floor. This is what I do. What screws you put back where in case you put some holes that you didn't need. Now, simple as 1, 2, and 3, all the parts are back on the floor. The inner and outer fender weld do not need to separate those two, but I did need to get it out to be able to weld that flange all the way around. Because once it's in the car, you really can't get in here to drill it or spot weld. Or if you did, it wouldn't be a very good weld, I don't feel. So I'm going to work on getting those two halves welded together. I think that's kind of self-explanatory. Then we'll get that thing stabbed into place. As you can see, it's all welded together now as one piece. You could buy these as an assembly at one time. I think you still can, where they're already put together. They can be wrestled in. It's a little tricky sometimes, but they go in pretty good. So next thing is working on wrestling that in there. But I want to show you something here. The two marked with the X, those are the holes that actually line up with the holes there on the inner quarter panel support. So I didn't want to weld those shut. Those are kind of alignment holes. So next thing is wrestle this into place, right? You might be asking yourself, what the heck was going on there? Well, if you have a convertible, that was a necessary step. I didn't finish it. I just wanted to have some fun messing with you guys. But this lip needs to be folded over between about, I got marked here, where it doubles up. There's a layer that bends over the edge of it. You need to do that. It needs to be bent over. It's a lot easier to bend that flange over while it's still here on the shop floor, especially the front edge is kind of behind some of that bracing. It's really kind of hard to get a good solid hit on it. So I'm going to keep rolling that edge over, and then we'll put it in. There you go, some good hammer therapy. You know, that's just good for you sometimes, work some of that frustration out. But from here, you see those two holes? That's where that inner brace here was actually tied into. So it needs to be bent down just behind that panel, then all the way up the whole top side to where it gets doubled up there, where the kind of lip from the inner rolls over the outer. And that should get you in really good source. It's a lot easier to get some hammer therapy while it's here on the floor. Now we're ready to put this back in. What works best, you tuck it in that front edge here first, and then kind of roll it up into place, I think. We'll find out for sure here, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be our best bet. put my little alignment pins back on my holes here and get my, I guess called alignment screws put into place. Okay. It's pretty close. I'll just go ahead and start putting these all back in the spots. I might leave them a little bit loose because you can tell things kind of bounce around until you get them all at least started. Just have a little wiggle room. What hurt the thing? Alright, now I'm going to leave you with this little tip here. I buy these little extensions to put your quarter drive on, because you're clearly not going to go get the drill in here, so longer to reach spots. I've never told you guys that, but that's how I get around to those. But we are all screwed into place. Let me show you what we've done. Now, all up close and pretty, I put screws all the way across the whole lip of this thing right here. Looks really nice. I like that. Same thing, radius there. I had to put the bolt in there to get the thing to pull all together. I didn't want to pull up tight like I wanted it to, so I do like that now. Now, inside here, it kind of looks like a porcupine or maybe a cactus, but all the screws that you can see here, this kind of follows the trunk floor line, comes all the way around, loops around into here. These here for the trunk hinge support, they're poking through. This goes up with that stop behind the seat, but you'll see a couple screws going this way into the inside of the car because I cannot get the drill in there to put them from the other direction. Let me show you why and where, and it'll make sense. But where those four are, here's the top two, there's it. You can't get anything in here to put those in. So I have to weld those two upside down from underneath. But you kind of get the idea. All screwed together, everything's test fitted. I like it. So the next thing would be to actually take all the screws out and weld that. I think what we're going to do though instead, we'll go ahead and get the trunk drop-off mounted into place. You see how that goes in there, and then I'll do a bunch of welding. All right, trunk drop-off all screwed into place, got it pulled up, got my lines light up, and then the stacking of all four panels are in there. Now I do not clamp or basically attach these two pieces yet until I get the quarter panel on. I want just a little bit of adjustability, so I will not be fastening the outer fender well to the trunk drop-off on this edge here yet. As I said, once you get the quarter panel on, I'll do that. But now it's just kind of the game of take every other screw out, drill a pilot hole, and then get rid of the porcupine mode on the Mockingbird and get this thing all welded in. And I guess that's something that you can see where everything ties in. That was kind of the goal here. And remember, use your alignment pins. I used a bolt there to pull it in tight. It was being a little bit stubborn. This is all looking good. Don't forget to lay the edge over. This looks like it's all said and done. You really can't get in here to get to that point and lay that edge over. It's just a little more room for the convertible top to operate. Coupe, don't bother, don't need to, you don't need to do that. So just remember that. Then we'll come through and weld all this in here. So I'm going to work on 11 billion plug spot welds or whatever you want to call them, rosette welds. I'm just going to fill in holes as hot metal and make it stick together. That's what I'm going to do. So I'll work on doing all that. Then I'll do the exact same thing to the driver's side. It's just a mirror of this side. I just wanted you to see what was kind of behind the scenes here on getting a inner and outer fender well installed and the trunk drop off and how to get it in here and work things forward. And then, of course, the outer tail panel needs to be installed, but that's a video for a different day. All right, continue to make great progress here on Project Mockingbird or Porcupine. For the time being, all those screws are sharp. I don't necessarily think I'll show you how to weld all those shut. That's kind of self-explanatory. You see how that all fits together. And then next go around, we'll work on doing a video on getting the quarter panels installed and then a tail panel installation video. I'm kind of breaking this up a little bit. I think there's some things that are worth pointing out, maybe. If not, whatever, maybe learn something out of it. And then I continue to work on the Mockingbird here and get moving forward and get going on the rest of the car. So nonetheless, ramble enough, do a bunch of welding, both sides, get that squared away, and get the camera back out here, work on some quarter panels, and we will see y'all then.